Welcome to those joining us live. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session today. I'm just going to wait a moment for as many of you as possible to join the session. Thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to just take a moment to find the chat box right now and just share with me where you're joining from in the world and what the weather's like outside for you right now. I am joining you from sunny blue skied London here in the UK. I know many of you are joining from all sorts of places all around the world. So if you can find the chat box, let me know that you found the chat box by just typing in where you're joining from and what the weather's like outside while we wait for as many people as possible to join. Super. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Nicola. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Rachel. Tanya is here in the UK. Natalie's joining from Manchester in the UK. Great. If you're just joining us, please do jump into the chat and let me know whereabouts in the world you're joining from and what the weather's doing outside. Mel, great to have you on the session. Thanks so much for joining. Arvin, thanks for joining. Roma is joining from Chicago. Sunny and 70s, beautiful. Natalie's joining from Manchester. From India, Arvin, great to have you here. Libby's joining from the UK. Emily is joining from the Netherlands. Sunny for now, terrific. Great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to those who are joining. Welcome, welcome. Please do find the chat and let me know where you're joining from. So welcome to session 1 of our Future of Wellness series here at Welltodo. We are going to get started in just a moment. We'll wait just a couple of minutes for as many people as possible to join. Hi from Moscow. Hello, Louisa from London. Excellent. Terrific to have you all here with us. If you are catching up on the replay, thank you so much for joining us. Such a pleasure to have you here for the Welltodo Future of Wellness series. My name is Lauren Arms. I'm the founder and the CEO of Welltodo. And it's a great pleasure to have so many of you joining us. We are, of course, talking about the future of wellness. I know that many of you will represent different parts and different facets of the wellness industry. Looking forward to finding out more about you. Get familiar with the chat box today. We're wanting this to be an interactive session. I'd love to hear your feedback as we go through the presentation. We've got some incredible guest speakers with us today. And so for those of you who are joining live, please do make sure you use the chat and interact with us as we go. Neil's joining from the UK. Monica is joining from Dayton, Ohio. Welcome, Monica. Lovely to have you. Thanks for being here. Fantastic to have so many people coming to join us from all over the world. What I would love for you to do, Marta, hi from Barcelona, is to also just let me know in the chat what aspect of wellness you work in. So it might be fitness, it might be beauty, it might be nutrition, might be another category. I'd love for you to just jump into the chat now and just let me know which aspect of wellness do you work in. You might be a founder, you might be an industry professional working for a brand, you might be thinking about entering the wellness landscape. Whatever it is you're doing, I'd love to understand what aspect of wellness are you working in right now. Philippa says breath work. Incredible and so needed right now with so much sort of uncertainty and stress in the world. Emily is in the spiritual wellness sector. Fantastic. Neil is focused on natural wellness. Tanya is a marketing coach for wellness business owners. Fantastic, Tanya. Arvin is a co-investor in yoga. Natalie has a yoga brand for mats and accessories. Roma is working in charity, doing cause marketing partnership with vitamin and wellness brands. Fantastic. So many interesting facets of wellness, pet wellness and sustainability, looking to start my nutrition wellness business, freelance copywriter, clients are in fitness, creative specialist, naturopath. Eloise is in female wellness. Fantastic. There are so many facets to the wellness industry, and being able to bring a community like this together is incredibly powerful. We continue to see the way that the wellness industry overlaps with categories working together in partnership and collaboration. I know that many of you will be joining us today because you accessed our Wellness Innovation Blueprint, which I hope that you have taken great value from. Our report really showed how those subcategories within wellness are overlapping, and we're going to explore an aspect of the industry today. So today's session is all about brand purpose in a post-pandemic world. So we are really looking to the future. Whilst there is uncertainty around what the future looks like right now for so many of us, and we certainly are not in that post-pandemic phase yet. We're certainly still being affected by many aspects of COVID. Today, we're going to focus on really looking at what opportunities there are for you as a purpose fueled brand owner or somebody supporting purpose fueled brands in wellness. We've got an incredible lineup of experts joining us to share their experiences and insights into what has been ultimately a very tremendously challenging year for every single person joining us on the session today. There has never been a world event that has impacted so many people in such an extraordinary way. And so as business owners, as industry professionals, we have an opportunity to come together and to explore ways to think differently, to reconnect to why we do what we do, and to really share strategies that enable us to not just survive this time, but also to thrive and to continue to impact our customers' lives in a really positive way. So our mission at Welltodo is very simple. You all have a clear vision for how you want to positively impact the lives of your communities and your customers or clients. We are here as a team, as a business, to support you with that mission. We're here to arm you with the tools that you need to understand market trends, to understand what your competitors are doing, to understand what's coming up next that will shape your business decisions. And we do this through our digital content, through our weekly newsletters, through our podcast, The Business of Wellness. I'd love to know if in the chat, if any of you are already listening to our podcast and getting insights from some of the successful founder stories that we share there. You may not know that we also support clients with hiring, with recruitment of talent into the wellness industry. And we can also support you with marketing your brand, selling your product or service in the digital world, and through, of course, events like this. So if we can be of any service in these areas, then please feel free to reach out to the team at any time. So we also work with a pool of incredible partners who have the expertise that we don't have. And those partners are really mission aligned with Welltodo, which means that they understand the wellness industry and they already work with some of the wellness industry's leading brands. So I'm going to invite Emma and Heather to join me on video now. Emma, lovely to have you here.
Hello,
and Heather,
everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us. So the first of our partners is Bird & Bird, who are a full service global firm. They've got 30 offices around the world. They are wellness industry experts. Their client list spans fitness, nutrition, tech, mental health, and more. They work with businesses from early stage startups all the way through to multinational businesses in highly competitive industries. They have a dedicated team of wellness experts across every aspect of legal services and advice. They can support you with everything from fundraising, commercial contracts, right through to brand protection. And Emma is joining us from Bird & Bird's intellectual property team in London. Hi, Emma. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love for you to just let everybody know about how they can access Bird & Bird's support as part of joining today's session.
Hi, everyone. So great to see so many of you joining from all around the world.
Emma, your sound is a little bit muffled. It might be that there's a block on the microphone.
Okay, Is that better?
There we go. That's better. Yeah,
Okay,
that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren. Hi, everybody. It's great to see so many of you joining from all around the world. You're in for a real treat with this session today. As a brand specialist myself, I can't tell you how important it is to really invest in your brand, whatever the environment is doing out there. It's incredibly important. And I've actually seen throughout this pandemic period, a lot of our wellness clients have been some of the most resilient, actually, and the most inspirational, positive, and driven companies to really make positive change for their business and their clients and customers that they work with. So a real big round of applause to all of you for continuing to work in the industry. With your attendance at this session, you're going to get within the digital goodie bag a 15-minute consultation with Bird and Bird. That might be me if you wanted to talk about intellectual property, or one of my colleagues in our team of wellness experts if, for example, you wanted to talk about corporate fundraising, commercial contracts, employment, or any other kind of legal topic. You can also Google wellness two birds and you'll find our website as the top link. There's a lot of free downloadable content on there, so get stuck into that. You can also fill out our contact form if you find in future that you need to get in touch with us. So enjoy the session and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks so much, Emma. And our team will also pop a link into the chat to the website, and specifically to the wellness info page for Bird and Bird. As Emma said, they have a wealth of insight, really specifically geared around the industry. And we're really, really proud to be partnered with such a passionate team who really understand this space. And so I would really encourage you to take up that offer to have a chat with the team. Absolutely no obligation, just a great opportunity to have a soundboard for any challenges that you're facing with respect to your legal requirements in your business. We are also really proud to be partnering with MindBody, who have been just such a tremendous support to their clients globally. I think Heather got almost 70,000 clients globally reliant on, MindBody software to connect them with the millions of clients that they serve. And they, as a team, have really gone above and beyond to facilitate, the movement towards digital engagement, whilst many of us have been unable to travel or visit these in-person locations. Heather, thanks so much for joining us. I'd love for you to just share a little bit about how MindBody are supporting the Welltodo audience as well.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, we're kind of the leading technology platform for the fitness and wellness industry. So you're right, we've got about 67,000 businesses across the globe using us. And in addition to that, consumers as well using the MindBody app, which some of you kind of may be accessing yourself. So we're booking about 350,000 classes and appointments a month through that. And what we're seeing, obviously, is that more and more of those classes are actually now virtual, so either live stream or video on demand. There's a huge appetite for it, and our customers have responded really well and really quickly to quite a dire situation with lockdown and not being able to provide their services. Pivoted very, very quickly to online offering. In order to support them through that, we brought forward the launch of our own virtual wellness platform by several months. Our kind of development team working through the night, just all guns blazing to get it launched. And so it's been the first platform that's been developed specifically for the fitness and wellness industry. So, while we all know that Zoom is great for video conferencing and use it all the time, it's not the best platform if you were teaching a fitness class or a yoga class, for example. There are different things that you need. And so MindBody have developed that platform, and we now have customers all over the world using it. And it's great to be able to see people's businesses thriving and surviving kind of due to being able to kind of offer those things online. So yeah, if anybody wants to speak about get in touch about any tips about how those businesses have pivoted, what we're seeing in the industry, really, really happy to chat about that. Similarly with the digital goodie bag, I think MindBody are providing a 15% discount on our software packages. If that's something you're interested in, it's best to have a chat either to me or to one of our reps first, and we can find out whether it's going to be something that's relevant to the business. But we're pleased to offer that discount to everybody participating today.
Fab. Thank you so much, Heather. Thank you to both of you for joining us. And of course, the team will post a link to MindBody's partnership page with Welltodo for any inquiries that you'd like to have a conversation with MindBody about. Please do that. Thank you both ladies for joining. I will invite you to jump into the attendee list and enjoy the session, and we will keep things moving. Thank you both.
Thank you.
So all of our partners will also be in the event Facebook group after the session. Please feel free to join that. We'll share the link for you in the chat as well, if you'd like to ask them any questions. And so without further ado, let's dive into today's content. So I will invite our speakers to join me, not on stage, on our virtual stage. That would be fantastic. Thank you, ladies. Such a pleasure to have you with me. So as they turn on their videos, I also want to just invite you all to share any questions that you might have throughout the session today using the Q&A function. So I know many of you are now experts at using the Zoom platform. So there is a Q&A function at the bottom. You've found the chat, which is fantastic. If you've got a specific question for our speakers, if you can just use the Q&A chat, that'll enable us to facilitate those questions as we go through. If not, then we'll answer those at the end. And if we do run out of time covering all of the content, then we'll answer those questions in the Facebook community afterwards. So Diana, Esther, Anna, thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to kick things off. Let's just start with a 30-second introduction to who you are and the role that you play in your respective businesses. So in no particular order, Anna, I'd love for you to start, just share a little bit about who you are.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on today. Really excited to be here. As mentioned, my name is Anna and I am one of the co-founders of Upcircle Beauty, which I launched with my brother 4 years ago. Our concept, as our brand name implies, is all about upcycling natural ingredients into sustainable skincare formulations. The idea started by collecting coffee grounds from local cafes and restaurants and transforming those into coffee-based exfoliators. We've since expanded out our range to include over 10 other repurposed ingredients in a whole host of other vegan, cruelty-free and sustainable skincare products. I cover everything from marketing, social, staff, new product development, a whole host of different things. I wear many hats, but I love that part of my job.
Yeah, and I'm sure many of our audience today can relate to that multiple hat wearing that happens when you are an entrepreneur. So thanks so much, Anna, for being here. Really looking forward to learning more about your purpose-driven brand. Diana, I'd love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi, good afternoon. And thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be with such incredible women this afternoon. So I'm the co-founder of Positive Luxury. Positive Luxury enables growth through positive impact. And what that means is we award brands with the Butterfly Mark, which is a certification that helps anyone to identify brands that are having net positive impact in our world. And I emphasize into the net positive impact because it's about really activating sustainability versus talking about sustainability. So yeah, that's kind of what I do. And I could not do this without an amazing team. So every opportunity I need to thank them for the incredible work they have done during all lockdown. And we will not be here without them today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly a team effort, isn't it, Diana? Thanks so much for being here. Esther, a pleasure to have you on the call today. I'd love to learn a little bit about you and share with our audience what you do with TCS.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. It's great to be with a group of people who I feel have a really primary and important role to play in our future resilience. So I'm Esther. I've worked on sustainability in different places for at least 25 years now, in central government policy with Tony Blair, at NGOs, at Sony. And now I wear two hats. Firstly, I'm Director of Purpose and Sustainability at the Communication Store, which is a leading international communications partner. And I also co-founder of Collectively, which is a social enterprise that brings groups of people together to really tackle sustainability challenges.
Fantastic. So I think we have a very highly qualified expert panel today, and I'm really looking forward to diving into the content. So as I said, for those joining us live today, please do engage in the chat, ask questions through the Q&A, and let's dive in. So as we can see on our screens, if we flick to the next slide, the evidence is really there that companies with a clear purpose are seeing much more rapid growth. In fact, in the UK alone, and I'm sure this is reflected in other countries globally, purpose-driven brands are actually growing 28 times faster than the national economic growth rate of 0.5%. And I know this statistic came out in 2018. And so I think even in the last 2 years, it's become even more important that brands hone their purpose and really communicate it clearly. Diana, I'd love to start with you. It seems as though the world is really waking up to the fact that, you know, every company has a duty to protect our planet, and businesses need to demonstrate this positive impact through their strategy. What would you say are some of the kind of common issues or global concerns that you're seeing clients you work with pay more attention to, and what do you think is driving that?
Thank you for the question. I mean, what we are seeing is that it's been a very clear behavior pre-COVID and post-COVID. I mean, we're still in COVID, but, you know, as time passes, pre-COVID, we have seen a lot of people paying incredible amount of lip service to, we have a purpose, we are sustainable. And what it has changed is the real understanding, or the wake-up moment to realize that unless as a brand you activate sustainability, you're not going to be resilient for the next foreseeable future. And what this means is raw material security is about de-risking the brand, and is beyond purpose. I mean, every brand, every founder, I mean, you are a founder, Anna, you're a founder, Esther, you're a founder. Most founders, and even the big companies like the Unilever and the Boots of the world, have a purpose. But normally that kind of sits somewhere in the business. The trick is, how do you activate that throughout the business? How do you put it within the culture of the business? And as you grow, how you make no compromises. So the big shift that we've seen is the fact that normally sustainability has been driven from the bottom up. Incredibly young, passionate, and not so young individuals really driving sustainability up the middle management and up to board level, and sometimes hitting a glass ceiling. The fundamental change that we have seen in the last 6 months is that sustainability is driven from the top down. Leadership have understood that unless sustainability is really internalized, and these externalities are happening in the world are internalized into the business, it's going to be much harder to get out of it. And the other big thing that we're seeing is that because COVID has allowed us to fail quickly, and I know people don't like the word failure, but it's sometimes necessary to try new things. So what has happened is innovation has started to become in the forefront, and people are trying different things, whether either different business models, different materials, different packaging, different type of innovation that is helping accelerate some kind of change. I guess lastly, and this is specifically on the fashion industry and up to a certain extent in the beauty industry, it's very clear that we as individuals are a lot more than consumers. I personally don't like to be called a consumer. I am much more than that. And I think that our influence to make decisions to vote with our money is very clear now. And it actually makes the difference between a brand living versus a brand dying. So I think many industries have understood that systemic change is needed. Not just a little bit of a plaster here and there, but actually looking at what are the systems that are perhaps broken, and how together as a collective we can actually reinvent our businesses and actually ultimately industries. So this is in a kind of nutshell. I
Yeah,
hope it's helpful.
absolutely. We're going to dive a lot deeper, and that's a really good sort of sets the tone for the conversation, really. Esther, I'd love to know what shifts you're seeing, and especially with, as Diana said there, it needs to be a top-down approach. So what are you seeing brands doing with relation to kind of pivoting or taking more of a leadership role, and what impact is that having on their business trajectory?
I think what we're seeing right now is a real fragmentation of approaches. So I think the big multinational players are really struggling to pivot. I think they're very bureaucratic. I think they're quite slow, quite wedded to the norm. And then you've got the startups which are embedding it right at the heart of their brand from day one, and I'm sure many of the people on this session will be those people. And then you've also got the heritage brands that are really coming back to the fore, the likes of Molton Brown, who started in the 60s and 70s with this stuff at their heart, and now maybe seeing a second flowering, a second moment. But I think, to build on what Diana said, there's a really creative opportunity now which people are seizing at board level. I think COVID has shown us that reminded us that we made the rules. We make the rules of capitalism. We make the rules for trade. We make our governance rules, and we can change them. So in the UK, overnight, the railways have been renationalised. Basic income has come in the form of furlough. People make the rules. We've lived by them for a while. We can remake the rules and build back better. And I think that's really creative and exciting.
And we will dive into a little bit more about how consumers, or for want of a better word, Diana, are actually shaping the way brands behave. Anna, as a founder in this space, and as somebody who launched a business with this philosophy 5 years ago, a lot has changed in the last 5 years. I mean, even if you think about social media and how that gives a voice to consumers, they can really take back power and call brands out. There's a lot of pressure. I'd love to know, what was the gap you initially spotted, and how has that landscape changed for kind of purpose-led green businesses like yours over the last 5 years as you've been growing?
Yeah, I think having a purpose as a brand for me as an individual is important in two ways. It's important from a personal perspective because my background was in a big corporate. I had a really well-paid job. I had job security. I had future prospects. I had all of that, and I chose to leave it. And one of the reasons that I chose to leave it was that fundamentally I was feeling unfulfilled. I had no purpose within that, background. So from a personal side, having a brand with a purpose was very important. But also from a business perspective, it's incredibly important. I mean, look at skincare, look at beauty. It's such a crowded market. And your purpose, your why, is fundamentally what sets you apart from other people. It's your story, it's your point of difference, it's what makes you memorable, and it's what makes consumers want to shout about you, tell their friends about you, and really be proud to be someone who's bought your product. For us specifically, when I look at what gap did we fill, a sentence that I say a lot is that natural is the new normal and normal is boring, which is why we go a step further with waste fighting formulations. I think within the last 5 or 10 years, we've seen a huge shift in the beauty and skincare industry towards more natural, vegan, cruelty-free, generally ethical ingredients. But they've almost become entry-level requirements now in terms of what consumers are looking for. So for us, just to say, oh yeah, we're a new brand and we're all about producing natural products, that's no longer enough to be interesting or to be different. So we needed to start out with a concept that was taking another step. And so for us, that new step was bringing the circular economy to the skincare industry. That was not something that we had seen other brands doing, to the point that we see ourselves as pioneering that trend within the industry. Our investors warned us off it. They said, look, this is the beauty industry. You're talking about tackling issues of waste. Those two things are on the opposite end of the spectrum, and neither the industry nor consumers are ready for that yet. So it's been as two young people starting out a brand, we initially thought, oh God, we need to listen to our investors. Maybe we should you know, we'll still keep that ethos, but perhaps not shout about it in the original way that we had planned to, because of the fear that people would associate waste as lesser quality or whatever. You know, we have to be really careful with our messaging. However, after 2 years, we took the decision to have a complete rebrand. And since doing that, the rebrand put our circular economy ethos at the front and center in every single way. You know, front of packaging of the products, all over our website, in the logo, the actual brand name, every single way that we could communicate that, we did. And since, our brand has absolutely catapulted forwards. And, you know, that goes back to what you've got on the slide right now. It's our purpose and being proud of that purpose that's really given us the growth that we have had in such a short space of time. You know, I think I would rather have a smaller tribe that are completely passionate about us and a few people who really don't like what we're doing than, you know, lots of people who kind of, yeah, upcircle, they're okay, but meh, take it or leave it. I think, you know, you've got to identify what you're doing, be bold with it and be strong with it. And that's our purpose and that's our gap. And that's what we've kind of chosen to do.
Yeah, so beautifully articulated, Anna. And I know a couple of people have already commented in the chat. And actually, if this does resonate with you, just type "me too" in the chat, of kind of leaving a corporate job and wanting to find work in the wellness industry specifically, where there is that purpose and passion and that people care. So we'll have a few "me toos" coming through, I'm sure. I think too that there was a quote that came to mind for me, which was, you know, if you want to achieve what nobody else has, you have to be willing to do what nobody else has. And so that in this space is to really hone your values and stand by those values, even when they may go against kind of popular opinion or what a strategist might tell you is the most profitable decision for your business in many cases. And so it's so powerful to hear the success that you're having, but also the willingness to, you know, have a smaller group of raving fans who love what you do. And I think those will be the brands of the future. So we can see now on the screen as we move forward that some of the consumer statistics that are coming out are really reflecting what all three of you have said, that, you know, consumers are shaping behavior right now in both a post-pandemic world and a pandemic world. And so we use that term, but so in so many ways this pandemic is really far from over. And so, you know, this statistic here, 62% of people as part of this research paper that Edelman put together, say they wanted companies to take a stand on the social, cultural, environmental, and political issues that they care about most. And where brands used to sort of be put in a box and be told to, you know, stop talking about politics or cultural issues and kind of sell their product, you know, we now see consumers saying, we want you to show us what you stand for. We want you to align with the things that we value. And it becomes part of the identity of a consumer to say, I buy this brand because they have the same beliefs or values or purposes I do. So Diana, today's consumer are very savvy. They can detect when an organization isn't authentic, especially when it comes to being a purpose-led brand. What would you say are the keys to really integrating purpose into a business strategy? And so for those listening, you know, what are the practical things that you can do to make sure that you are transparent, that you are being purposeful in a really sort of clear and transparent way for your audience?
Thank you for the question. And I think Anna has shown the first step, which is passion. Love what you do. And you have to have great leadership. So at the helm of organizations, you have leaders that are passionate about the organization, and it has to be beyond profit. So it has to be authentic. So it starts from the leadership of the business about what you get out of bed without coffee. And it cannot stop there. The second point is like, how do you activate it? So how everybody gets out of bed without coffee for the same reason that you do as a leader. And Esther touched upon this, in like big corporation, they are slightly slower to do this. And this has been because I think pre-COVID, this was driven from the bottom up. And, you know, they believe that actually we need to change the way we see businesses is not about growth, but about profit, is not about constant growth either. So we need to start to reframe from shareholder value to stakeholder value. You know, we need to start reshaping all of those kind of nuances that are massively important to adapt into this post-pandemic world. So I think the second step is make sure that you communicate your purpose throughout the organization and activate it. But actually, it doesn't stop there. Activating purpose is when you actually embed it in your sustainability strategy. And embedded into your sustainability strategy means that everyone in the organization, from a cross-functional team, has to live sustainability, from supply chain, retail, marketing, e-com, packaging, you name it. And I think the company is actually ultimately successful when your bonuses or your pay is linked to your sustainability performance. And that's when the magic happens, when John Elkington called it the triple bottom line. So it's people, planet, profit. And I think companies today are understanding that definitely needs to move that way. And Esther also talked about heritage brands. I mean, a lot of the luxury brands are really going back to what is the founder's mission, what was there, and how to kind of get that to be able to pivot. I think the last point in terms of activating purpose is, or sustainability, it's really about the fact that government is not going to solve these problems for us. Not just the UK government, but no governments will actually stand up for the people in the way that we need to stand up for us. So this role is now taken by leading businesses in which has taken their social mission on the environmental mission and actually move towards more regenerative business models. So when we pause, nature said, yes, you got off me. Finally, we got a break from you and start flourishing. We have seen it during the first 6 months of lockdown, how the world breathed saying, you humans are at home. We are super happy. So now the pendulum has swung one way, and now we need to start thinking about how we actually have a profitable business that goes, that takes people and planning into account when you create products, when you create distribution systems. And it's possible. I believe it's possible, and how businesses can take care of the most precious things. One is their people, and their people is not just their employees, but the communities where they operate. And secondly, or no in particular order, is our planet. Without looking after our biodiversity, we will be literally dead. And sorry to be pessimistic, but it's the reality of things. So I think COVID, if anything, has been good to wake up to what's possible without humans in this world. And the reality is that we will not survive, but our planet will. So now we need to do something to ensure that we all survive.
And I love that you talk about, this possibility that we can look after the planet, we can be purposeful and profitable rather than it being a choice between the two. And there are some really powerful brands now showing that that is the case. And that, yes, there will be compromises along the way, but long term, you are actually going to win more consumer engagement and loyalty. Esther, we talk about... Sorry, Diana.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just the investment community are investing in brands that are really mindful and are looking at the triple bottom line. So it's not just the consumer, the investment community, which pretty much rule the world, is looking at this. So, before they would not consider it, and now is absolutely a must have. So I think that's where the world started to shift, and hopefully the acceleration to this shift will become quicker.
Absolutely. And so it's essential, if you are a startup business looking to raise capital, that, as part of your business planning, you're thinking about these issues. Esther, we talk about the gap between intention. So customers talking about the fact that they intend to buy from purpose-driven brands, versus action. And so, and the flip side as well. So the intention that brands have to be purposeful, and then action, really putting that into practice. And so brands do need to get creative with how they're communicating and marketing their purpose and maybe action around sustainability. What should brands be doing to really meet consumer expectations and also gain trust? Oh, we need you to unmute that old chestnut.
Oh, I've done it. I knew I was going to do it once this session.
Yeah.
Really pleased to hear what Anna was saying about the uptick once she foregrounded her circular story, because one of the things that I often see is either the sustainability storytelling is left to the sustainability geeks, in which case it's dry and statistical and scientific and long, while over here all the brand people have the fabulous time, doesn't look the same, or it's seen as a turn off and nothing is said about it at all. Whereas for me, great storytelling through the lens of the brand is absolutely what's needed. So to use an example from beyond the sector, Lacoste, one of my favorite examples of this. Lacoste, the sportswear brand, what are they well known for? The crocodile and tennis. So what do they do for sustainability, as well as doing all their carbon footprinting and all the important metrics, measurement stuff? They set up a world-leading program to bring tennis to children in disadvantaged communities, tackling health and well-being from that perspective. And they ran an amazing campaign around endangered species, where they created a limited edition of sportswear with not a crocodile, but a series of endangered species. And that for me was just a brilliant combination of great deep work on social and environmental sustainability expressed in a really playful, fun, brand-led way. And to find a sweet spot between doing this work robustly and expressing it in a way that your audience wants to meet with you is really important.
And if that sort of genuine action and implementation element doesn't come, then fancy branding can be the turn off, can't it? That actually, you did a great job on that campaign, but we don't believe you. Or have you actually sort of put action words into action? And so both of those components are so critical, and it's really great that you've touched on that. Anna, as a purpose-led business, as a founder, how does that feed into the way you communicate with your consumers? How are you communicating your mission so it is easier for the brand to resonate with people? And then on the flip side, have you experienced any of that pushback of, brand scrutiny or kind of harsher expectations from your customers because you're raising the bar?
In short, oh yes. Expectations are incredibly high, and as the consumer kind of push for transparency becomes more and more, and as my brand grows as an individual, I only feel that pressure more and more. And there's been a lot of calling out this year, which has been a new experience for me to learn to manage and to handle. And there are a number of ways in which we kind of deal with the communication from brand to our customers or prospective customers. The first way that we look at that is to view the communication as a two-way street. I think a mistake that a lot of brands make, particularly with something like social media, take Instagram, for example. Lots of brands view it as a one-way channel from which they produce content and the audience receives it. I think that's so short-sighted. We try to involve our audience as much as possible. Ask questions of them. Ask them what they don't like about you, or what they don't like about, what stopped them from buying from you again. What do you need to do to push them over the line? What would they like to see from you next? A lot of our new product development is based around engaging our existing customers and finding out from them what it is that they want to see, because what we think might not actually be what is wanted, and that'll save you a lot of money and make sure that those initial products that you're producing are what people want the most, which you're going to need in order to sell lots of them so that you can expand your range and have the luxury of having lots and lots of products. In the early days, you need products that people want. So yeah, viewing communication and involving your audience in your decision making where possible through the many, many ways that you can do that. Social media is just one avenue. We also have closed Facebook groups for our, highest spending customers, so that they can, for example, receive new products before the rest of the world, and in exchange for that they write reviews for us or whatever. There's so many different creative ways that you can do that, but yeah, viewing communication as a two-way street is very important. Secondly, in terms of our communication, we make the commitment to constantly evolve. Again, I think a lot of brands will produce a product and once it's released, they view it as finished. And I think that is also an error, because if we're talking about sustainability and wellness, that's always evolving. So the products that are out there on the market need to evolve with the latest innovation, whether that's in packaging or whether that's down to the availability of ingredients. You need to be willing to look at the products that you've put out there and say, okay, well, yeah, that formulation really worked, but vanilla is no longer sustainable anymore, and I can't produce it in volumes that I want to whilst maintaining my ethics. So I need to readdress that, reformulate, communicate with my audience why I've done that, which will ultimately lead to the trust and respect that we have mentioned earlier. Which kind of brings me on to the third, which is being transparent and owning your human nature. Again, this is much easier to do as a small brand, and I acknowledge that. But I try to put the face and the human side to my brand out there as often as I can, whether that's talking about the different members of our team, International Women's Day, shouting about the amazing things that we do as a female founded brand, and with a team that are all but two female. Bringing it back to the individuals and owning the fact that you cannot know everything. I don't have a strict skincare background, but that's okay, because I tell people that, and I communicate that I work with professional formulators, and I don't need to know everything. So long as I employ the right people and I ask the right questions, that's all you need to do. So I think kind of owning who you are and what you do and what you don't do, and the fact that you can't know everything, is another thing that ultimately will bring you trust and respect. Obviously, COVID has been probably the biggest event of this year, but also going back to specific examples of this push for transparency and calling out of brands. We were a brand who were asked to comment on everything that happened with Black Lives Matter. And that was something that was unbelievably stressful because it's so important and you want so badly to get it right, whatever that means. And so we took several different stages to our approach. Firstly was to comment, to say, okay, we hear you, this is our position. Secondly was to outline changing what we've said into tangible actions. Okay, so this is what we think, but what are we going to do about it? And kind of outlining expectations there as well, saying, look, immediately I can start donating £1 from every purchase of X product to the Stephen Lawrence Foundation, for example, which is a relevant charity within London. But then also on a longer time frame, this is what we'd like to do and this is why. So what we chose to do, because my brother, who's co-founder of the business, had just had a young son, his first child, we had been thinking about the importance of having race conversations with children. So we pledged to donate children's books written by Black authors with Black protagonists and illustrated by Black illustrators into UK schools across the country. But all of this was communicated over many months because, your first comment can be instant. Implementing some sort of charitable donation can happen pretty quickly, but then a wider story takes time. And I think if you can say why you're doing something, make it relevant to you, and then turn words into tangible actions, then that's kind of your third pillar.
So many powerful insights there, and a lot of really practical advice for our audience there too, Anna, from, really engaging with your audience. I love that idea of a closed Facebook group for high spending customers that can really feed back. I really liked your point there about what happens to your product when it's in the marketplace. So I know, you really are leading that conversation around kind of the circular economy, but thinking about what happens after your customer has finished using your product or engaging in the experience, You know, is it a recyclable product? Can it be recyclable? You know, can you reuse it, refill it even? You know, all of these questions are so important. And I really love the example there of how you have reacted to issues in a way that is not just that initial lip service, but is really a sustained execution of a response. So thanks so much for sharing that. And as well as obviously everything that you're doing, we wanted to just show some other brands that are really kind of taking a stand and stepping into purpose in ways that perhaps, you know, technically many businesses would argue are maybe out of their remit. So once upon a time, you know, Anna, what would a skincare brand be doing? You know, donating books to schools. You know, this is the sort of out of the box thinking that is actually winning loyalty and trust. And so where we think actually, you know, I'm in the business of being a fitness studio like Barry's are, they've decided to kind of open up that remit and say, well, we're also citizens of the world. We're also addressing these issues. We are more than just a boutique fitness studio, or for every table here, you know, it's a food chain, but they also have a pricing system that responds to underserved communities. And so they subsidize prices in lower socioeconomic places where their stores are from the higher prices that they charge in more affluent communities. And so thinking outside of the box as a business is really what's going to lead the way for change. So where once upon a time a store would say, well, we can't charge different prices in different places, that would be unfair, or we would be, reprimanded for that. Brands are thinking differently, and that is really what is creating brand loyalty. And we've got another example here of a leading UK supermarket chain. For those outside of the UK, Tesco is a leading supermarket. They formed a partnership with Loop, which is worthwhile looking into, to really address the use of packaging and give people greater access to products that are supporting the environment, that are have sustainability at their core. Diana, I know that in your recent report about kind of bringing the future forward, you talk about how businesses can play a role in redefining value, rebuilding the economy sustainably. Can you share a bit about that shift that you're seeing and how health and wellness brands in particular can play a role in that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think right now a lot of businesses are thinking about this idea of citizenship, a little bit like Anna said, and how do you add value. So it's about, used to be called share values. And like, how do you create a business that is beyond profit? Like I was saying before, how do you actually integrate what you do, your purpose, your sustainability into your product, and you keep like giving back? And also, the other shift that is happening is the different business models. So I don't know if you heard, there is this new trainers brand that you don't own your trainers, you lease your trainers. So you never actually own a pair of shoes. Like you will never own your car. You finish with it every, I don't know, depends on how much you run, 2 months, 2 years, don't know, whatever it is. And you pay every month for it. And then at the end of the life of that shoe, you give it back to them and they will recycle, reuse, repurpose. I think this is very powerful because the idea of what value means is not about being cheap, because we know that cheap products, somebody's paying for it somewhere within the supply chain.
Right.
But if it's costly, how do you actually afford it, and how is kind of taken to you, and how do you actually can enjoy it? So this idea of facilitating us the possibility to actually enjoy good quality, well-made, clothing, shoes, makeup, is just thinking about things slightly different. I will be super happy to put in the chat a link to the report if anybody wants to download it, and it's for absolutely free, obviously. So if everyone wants to read it, I mean, I think you guys are distributing it anyway, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, just read the report. But I think the biggest insight that we have is this idea of connections. Also the brands are moving from, like Anna said it, like selling you something, like in an Instagram campaign, to co-creating with the consumer, co-creating with us, and listening. For the first time ever, we have time to listen. And maybe we don't know what we want, but the point is that there is so many different messages that at some point something will become clear. And what people are screaming is, we want to be heard. We want to be heard in terms of racial equality. And this sounds that is very close to Esther's heart. So I'll let you speak over that. But, you know, religious equality, human rights, and the whole kind of diversity, environmental piece. And I think that's kind of the most proactive business, like, well, Tesco, many people might disagree with it, but that's what they're doing with Loop. So I think the world, I don't know, I'm maybe the Latin American optimism, but definitely I see the world changing, and I think post-pandemic, the change will be fast.
Yeah, and we need your optimism for sure, Diana. Esther, are there any kind of innovative examples that you're seeing, maybe even in other industries, that the wellness industry can specifically learn from?
Yeah, I think for me, it's about connection, exactly as Diana said, resilience and nature in a sort of triangle. And I think the other expansion of connection, I would say, is community. So I feel like the winners are going to be, in any sector, the ones that move away from engaging with us as individuals and as consumers, and instead create a collective experience for us. I'm a big believer that experience transforms behavior. If you have an experience of a gorgeous vegan feast, then that will immediately change your mind about a plant-based diet and about eating less meat. If you have an experience of connecting with strangers in the street through COVID, clapping for carers maybe, that will immediately transform your behavior around how you are with your neighbors. So I think any brand that is able to create that sense of community and a sense of collective is going to be a winner. So there's as much about the social positive impact as there is about the environmental one. And you asked for other examples from other sectors. I think the fashion industry is exactly as Diana said, really struggling with this, different approaches to ownership in the leasing or the resale or the loan side of things. But I think also in terms of potentially blowing up its whole industry. You know, there are people at the top of the fashion industry now saying, why did we used to have 2 seasons and now we have 8 seasons? Why did we fly the same 1,000 people around the world 8 times a year to talk to each other and look at you know, beautiful things that, you know, many people can't really afford to access? What is all that about? So I think really asking those very intrinsic, sort of taken for granted questions about an industry and really seeing the opportunity to explode them right now is absolutely at the top of the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, it's ripe for disruption, isn't it? It's ripe for fresh thinking and fresh approach. I want to jump to kind of post-COVID challenges and opportunities. So for those of you who are joining us for today's session, there are all sorts of questions that we want to invite you to be thinking about in your business. So, you know, feel free to take a screenshot of this slide. We will, of course, be including it in the replay, but this might be something that you get your colleagues, your partners, your sort of senior management together to ask. And so as Accenture says here, you know, COVID has elevated the social impact of every business and thrown a spotlight on the nature of our companies, of our character, and of our brands. So I'd love to ask you, Anna, the pandemic has really pushed everyone to reassess their values, to reassess their behavior, their lifestyle, how they interact with brands, maybe their routines. What are some of the challenges and also opportunities that this shift has opened up for in terms of the way that you run UpCircle?
Yeah, I mean, we have a circular economy model. So for us, this has been extremely challenging because from the product side, we rely on the functioning of other industries to even make our products. So if you take our coffee scrubs, for example, more than 50% of that formulation is made with coffee grounds that we would normally collect from a huge portfolio of cafes and restaurants around the city that I'm from, which is London. So as those other businesses all closed, that was hugely challenging. And it comes back to the resilience and the resourcefulness that Esther was talking about earlier, which has enabled us to survive. You have to go back to those core character traits that have made you want to be an entrepreneur in the first place, in order to think outside the box, to navigate the challenges that you're faced with, in order to move forwards. But for us, with everything that's happened with COVID, in many ways it has been positive, because it's reinforced this sense of community. Again, as mentioned, coming out and talking to your neighbours, clapping for carers. When you are isolated, there are other ways with which we seek out connection between other individuals. Another side of this has been the need to look after yourself and for self-care. So again, in skincare, this is something that we've seen a huge increase in, and something that we have shifted our marketing towards. Similarly, not being able to see friends and family, people are relying on gifting and sending tokens and gestures via the post, to show people at the very least that they are thinking of them when they're not able to see them. So again, a focus on gifting and has also been something that we have pivoted towards, because online's been great, but a lot of our suppliers are brick and mortar, and they've all closed. So that ability to rethink your strategy, to change it, and to look at what's happening in real time, definitely helps. Again, going back to shopping small and shopping local, sourcing of local ingredients, not relying on the global economy, but actually seeing value in things that are nearby, has been a huge thing that we've seen in the last 6 months. And so kind of hopping onto that has been very important. It's been actually quite moving to see how people kind of rally behind you as a young brand, and are keen to support and keen to spread the message and share. And again, how you react to that as a brand is important. Going back to what we did with Black Lives Matter, we also, at the start, back in March, end of March, we sent out thousands of pamper parcels for free to NHS frontline workers. Again, just to show our support and our appreciation and our thanks for what they're doing for us at the moment. And whilst that was something that we wanted to do, perhaps I shouldn't say this, but it's also something that as a brand people will remember, and your customers will also want to invest in you as well. So it's also it's a slight business decision as well, let's say.
It's a double win, isn't it? It's a double win, and that's the perfect way of looking at it. It's of course, as a brand, you're always going to be critiqued on your actions, and even when those are good actions, that's a win for brand loyalty. And so we don't need to be shy about that, in my opinion.
Agree.
I'd love to jump to kind of just talking a little bit about internal culture and change. And so some more insights from the Welltodo research team here, showing the importance of socially responsible brands, and that starts with leadership. And so if we could get the next slide, please, Sinead, we'll turn to a conversation about kind of internal culture. We kind of have touched on this, and that bottom quote there, as far as the UK is concerned, it says 51% of consumers are influenced to buy a brand, product or service by the words, actions, beliefs, values and beliefs of a company's leaders, which is interesting. So Esther, I'd love to get your thoughts on sort of what sort of approach brands should be taking to, effectively communicate purpose to their wider stakeholders. And are you seeing the conversations around purpose maybe changing? What are investors and kind of those on board level positions looking for from a brand when they are raising money or looking to really reposition themselves in this landscape?
I think we need to think about those people as people, not just as investors or chief executives. And I think if we come back to what I was saying before about experiences transforming behavior, I'm seeing a real appetite now at the most senior levels for for content and connection, for a really much deeper understanding of the issues, whether that's a deeper understanding of diversity or a deeper understanding of climate change. So with my Collectively hat on, for example, we took a group of C-suite leaders from a leading FMCG company. They wanted to develop a climate change strategy. So rather than just get into their boardroom or do it for them, we took that whole group for 3 days to Elmley Nature Reserve. We walked them around with the warden, who told them exactly how rising sea levels right now were a real challenge to the land they were standing on, to the rare species that they were surrounded by. We really, really made it real and uncomfortable. And the strategy that emerged as a result of that experience was probably 10 times as ambitious as if we had tried to do it with them in the boardroom, or if they just asked us to do it.
Showing them some pictures of,
yes,
rising
exactly.
sea levels.
Little birds full of plastic, just to the experience transforms behaviour, and I think the wellness industry really understands the value of that. I think I'd also talk to TCS's own experience in responding to the Black Lives Matter movement recently, because we want to practice what we preach, I guess, as an organisation. We have 160 staff across the UK and the US, work with an amazing range of fashion, beauty, lifestyle clients, and couldn't get away from the fact that we did not have a lot of racial diversity. We did not have a lot of gender diversity. We have, I think, something like 95% female staff members, and we were really well placed to rise to Black Lives Matters because a year ago, a group of staff from minority lived experiences had come together at their own behest. No one had asked them to do it. They just came together to talk about how they could help to make TCS a more diverse workplace, and therefore help to make the work that we do for our clients more diverse. And I think back to Diana's point about, is it bottom up or top down? I think that was a real example of that group of staff getting together and then influencing the really senior management team, who were then ready to receive that influence thanks to the wider Black Lives Matter moment that we've experienced. So I think when you think about how change happens, there's all those different dynamics, and when you're lucky, it can all come together really beautifully and drive real impact.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really powerful. And I love that example of really getting key decision makers into the trenches, as it were, and really showing them the implications of their decisions and how that impacts them on a human level, rather than as a strategy or as a set of key mission statements, or a sort of document that goes out on as a press release, as it were. Actually making it real for people, because you're right, brands are at the end of the day people. They have probably children of their own, are thinking about the impact and the legacy that they are creating in the work that they do. And I love that you have highlighted that as a key strategy. As we sort of near the end of our time together, I want to jump straight to kind of the future landscape. So if we look to the future, I love this statement here. It's from Richard Edelman, the CEO of Edelman. Says this is a moment when brands can prove that they put people, not profits, first. Respond with compassion and make a difference. This is the true test for purpose-driven leaders. The people are counting on us to deliver. And this applies to everybody joining the session today, whether live or on the replay. So let's talk about the future then. So Diana, in terms of, longer term sustainability goals, do you see these impacting the business landscape over the next 10 years? And how can businesses align themselves with these longer term sustainability goals, such as, those being set by the United Nations and other global groups?
Well, thank you very much for the questions, but also thank you so much for that slide. That's incredibly inspiring. And I think that kind of sets the tone for the future. Yes, there is very tangible goals in which companies should align with, which is our 2030 goals for Sustainable Development Goals and the 2050 for the Paris Agreement. That is more related to emissions. But in between, here and there is the business of nature. and our and nature as a natural capital for businesses. And I think a lot of businesses are really thinking about the role that they need to play to really invest in this area of regenerative business models, regenerative agriculture, and what they get and what they put in the earth, what they take out. So it's not about take, but actually put back what you take. Or a little bit like Anna's business is about how do you use circularity as your fundamental business model. So I think that's the future. It's better in terms of having that in mind. And the second point is people. I really think that today the most valuable asset that companies have as an asset class is their teams. And I hate to talk about this as an asset class, but for people that think about money all the time, is really important, because if your people are not happy or are not healthy, you have no business. And you like, well, I keep referring to Anna because you just said and you inspire me. I just left my corporate job and did my own thing, and you're not on your own. I mean, a lot of young people think that way, and I think now the environment that we are in is very nurturing to actually perhaps take a little bit of risks and actually follow your heart. Somebody told me once that the best businesses or the most profitable business of the future are the ones that start in recession. And being a twice entrepreneur and coming from South America, coming from Argentina, and I grew up in dictatorship. So the only certainty I had is none. None, zero. I grew up in a completely uncertain environment. So we're very lucky in Britain, in Europe actually as a whole, and some scattered in America and some scattered countries in the world in which we have peace and we have security of some sort. The rest is up to us. It's the decisions we make, the people we hang out, the brands that we buy, and how we choose to live. So I think now leaders are much more aware of what are their choices. And they're making actually, there's a lot of people making radical choices. I mean, in Silicon Valley, you have all these people going to Alaska, moving to Hawaii, going here, going there. So this is the time to rethink and to take your blank piece of paper and think, how am I going to live? Well, I'm 48, so for me, I'm almost 50. So I say 50 just to make it quite easy. How I'm going to live the next 50 years and what impact I'm going to have in this world. And I think a lot of people, either young people, not so young people, are thinking about in these terms. It's like, what I'm going to leave behind, a part of a bunch of debts. What is the legacy that I can leave behind? Because the world, it's unstable as it is, and now we have the opportunity to actually build something amazing. So I don't know. I mean, that's again my optimism.
I love that. No, I think we've had somebody say, yes, Diana, 100% agree, Nicola says. So it's resonating with our audience, and very beautifully said. I think COVID has presented an opportunity, as we saw on the slide, for all of us on a personal level as business owners to stop and reflect and think about the vision and the purpose behind what we do. And is what we do worth fighting for? Because a lot of us are faced with challenges where we really have to fight to make our business work through this time and survive on the other side. And so is that mission and purpose worth fighting for? That's the question for a lot of us. Esther, when you look to the future, what areas would you say, when you advise brands, when you advise businesses, what should we be investing in order to future-proof ourselves with regard to everything that we've talked about today?
Well, to be very macro about it, I guess there is one scenario that's coming, which is the collapse of globalization. And I think COVID has given us a little taste of that in terms of the travel bans and the quarantine, and sometimes our failure to source PPE from China quickly, concerns about food, concerns about toilet paper. I think that's become more top of mind for people. And I absolutely agree with what Anna was saying around that shift to local. I think smaller, shorter, smarter supply chains are definitely something that is smart in the face of global turmoil, but also from an ecological point of view, likely to be lighter. I also think in terms of future proofing that successful businesses in the future will be the ones that can create those experiences of community, and that can help to tackle burnout and tackle loneliness. Because I think just as important as the epidemic around obesity and the ecological disaster are the mental health implications of living through a time when we are faced with the consequences, unintended as they may be, of our actions and our need to be resilient. So I think focusing on burnout, focusing on loneliness, which are two things that collectively is working on right now, the more we can help to bolster each other in communities, whether that's online, whether that's local, whether it's in the workplace, the better supported and situated we'll be to face that uncertainty.
Absolutely, some really powerful things to think about there. And I know when I asked the audience at the beginning which aspect of wellness they were focused on, I think a lot of what our audience are delivering as far as value really taps into those key issues of burnout and loneliness. We are more stressed than ever, we are more connected than ever, and yet we're experiencing more loneliness than ever. And it's one of those great ironies of a connected world that we actually feel more isolated than we ever have before. Please do go ahead and share your questions with us in the Q&A function. I'll ask Anna their final question, and then I would love to take some questions from the audience. Anna, when you think about UpCircle and your goals and plans for the foreseeable future, where do you sort of see the biggest issues that still need to be tackled, and what role do you play in addressing some of these themes that Diana and Esther have raised?
I guess for us specifically, it's all about changing perceptions, and that goes back to our communication. It's very industry specific. So, you know, not seeing things that we already have in use as being finite, you know, moving from a linear perspective to a circular perspective, challenging people's perceptions of what they're considering as waste and inviting them to reimagine a new life for them. In terms of some of the things that have been brought up already, I mean, earlier Esther mentioned that it can be frustrating that when people are discussing sustainability, they pitch it towards people who are already interested in sustainability. And I think that was perhaps an error that we made as a brand. We thought, oh, you know, we've got this huge eco story, our audience are going to be eco-minded. And actually we limited our own potential by doing that. As soon as we realized that we could tick 3 boxes, which is, you know, the ethics and the story, but also aesthetics, so pretty packaging, and then thirdly, performance, you know, does the product do what you want the product to do? Then all of a sudden you broaden your audience out massively. So in terms of advice for other people, I would always say, just be sure not to limit your own potential by doing that. I'd also say, you know, so often talking about challenges that we've faced, people can be quick to assume, looking at a brand like UpCircle, that we've had an easy road. We're the first brand who have successfully scaled up repurposing of natural ingredients into skincare to the scale that we have. You know, we are stocked in more than 10 European countries. Last year we launched into America. We are distributed throughout Australia, like literally global. And a lot of people said that we weren't going to be able to do that. If you look on our Instagram, it does largely look like it could have been an easy road, but oh my goodness, it hasn't been. We have failed and started again time and time and time again. So again, having teams around you and manufacturers who understand your why, growing with you as well. A lot of our broader team, who aren't technically UpCircle employees but are absolutely instrumental in producing the brand that we have grown with us. Part of that is getting your ethics clearly defined at the start, so that the people who are growing with you share your same values. But yeah, don't be afraid to start again. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't look at other brands and how well they're doing and think, oh, I must be doing awfully because I'm facing all of these problems. Everyone's facing problems. Everyone has infinite hurdles. Every single day we have what one person might consider an absolutely game-changing catastrophe. It's about you as an individual, how you tackle it, how you dust your shoulders off and say, okay, what are we going to do, how are we going to fix it, and how are we going to move on?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And, there's some really great advice there. I think Instagram is always going to be a bit of a highlight reel for both people and brands. We want to put our best foot forward. And so that comparison trap as an early stage business owner can be pretty challenging when you feel like everyone else is getting it right and you're sort of struggling. But I think events like this remind us that we're all kind of rowing in the same boat right now. We're all faced with the same challenges. And as I said right at the beginning, I don't think we've ever had an incident or circumstance where the world has been so connected by the same problem, by the same challenges. So to finish off, if anybody does have any questions, please do send them through now. We've got a question about kind of managing expectations from various customers. Esther, I'm not sure whether you sort of feel comfortable to comment on how, as a brand, we manage expectations from various customers, maybe the demands on brands to be on it at all times for all causes and kind of be responding at all times to everything that's going on. There is a lot of pressure there to kind of be everything to everyone. Do you have any comments on that?
I think Anna's probably a better place to talk about that as somebody who does manage customers' expectations on a day-to-day basis. But I would say it's about really the relationship that you have with those customers. What are their expectations? Why do they have those expectations? Are they realistic? And can you take them on a journey to meet that? I think I've completely lost my train of thought. So I'm going to hand over to Anna.
if I can use a specific example.
I've been on Zoom since half of the time, I'm sure.
Yeah, we feel you. We totally feel you, Esther.
I can use a specific example that I find frustrating on a nearly daily basis, which is in packaging. Beauty industry has an absolutely appalling reputation for packaging. We send 120 billion units of packaging to landfill per year in our industry. And that is something that obviously we would like to tackle, but consumer expectations there are high. And they're also not willing to compromise on performance. So, for example, I could produce a lip balm and I could do it in an aluminium tin, but then I would get loads of pushback for it not being hygienic because you have to put your finger in it. So the alternative is that you do it in a plastic roll-up tube and then you get stick back that it's plastic. So I have to often communicate carefully, of course, the fact that we do not produce packaging. I'm a brand, I'm not a packaging producer. So I have to work with what's available on the market. What I can do goes back to that approach of always evolving and always, I am responsible for being up to date on the latest innovation. I'm responsible for educating myself and making sure that my products are the best that they can be, and always committing to evolving and refining what we put out. But yeah, you have to demonstrate to people that there is only so much to do, that you can do, but then also put things in place that are possible. So for example, elements of our packaging, we're 99% plastic free, but some products require plastic for their functionality. A toner comes in a mist, it needs a spray pump. An eye cream comes with a pump like a foundation, it has an element of plastic, etc., etc. But what we do, which is very simple, is we offer plastic free aluminium cap refills. So you buy one product with the plastic lid, and then all of our repeat customers go on our website, there's a drop down menu where it says aluminium cap. Then they receive that, all they do is switch the plastic pump into their second bottle. Great. But after first purchase, it's 100% plastic free. And again, you know, that comes to going back to basics, simple thinking, what can I do? But managing expectations, you have to just say, look, I don't produce packaging. I will do my best, and this is what I'm doing, but that is what it is.
I think too, the great thing about being a successful startup is that you often it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? You present as sometimes being a bigger company than you are, and actually people are sort of saying, can't you do this, 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 and this? Come on, guys. And you're sort of trying to answer the question, but also gently remind people that you might be a team of 4 or 5, or, you know, a team of 10, or however small you are, and kind of pick your battles, don't you? Esther, go ahead.
I think to build on that, there's also an element of nuance, which is really hard to manage on Instagram, which isn't about nuance. But for example, just on the packaging side, you know, if somebody wants you to get rid of your plastic, obviously with pumps you can't, but you know, other packaging you could switch to glass, but glass packaging then massively increases the carbon emissions. So
right.
there, you know, the whole of this is so complex and interconnected that in a way we need to find ways to have more nuanced conversations about those trade-offs and what is and isn't possible. And I'm not sure if any brand is doing that right now. Diana might know, but we all want simple answers, and there aren't any.
Right. I think the packaging industry is one of those industries that is ripe for the most innovation, isn't it? Even when you start talking about kind of biodegradable packaging, the question is, well, actually, does packaging biodegrade in bins? Is it being put in the right places to biodegrade? All of these questions. So thank you so much, ladies. We'll wind up there, and we will, for those still with us live, please do share any key takeaways that you have noted down that you can action in your business. So I'd love to hear them in the chat as we wind things up, and join me in thanking our guests for the tremendous insights that they've shared. For those of you who are joining us for the rest of the series, I really look forward to seeing you. If you didn't purchase a ticket for the entire series, you can still purchase those additional session tickets, and the link will be in the chat in a moment. If you're looking for further insights, we recently released our latest report. It's a free report. It's our 2020 Wellness Innovation Blueprint, and you can download it today. Again, we will include the link, and we'll send that in our post-event follow-up. And please do, if you feel inclined to, join us in the Facebook group to continue the conversation. You'll be receiving an email from our team in due course with all of the relevant follow-up and for everything that we've mentioned here. Thanks again to Anna, to Diana, to Esther for joining me. Really appreciate your insights, ladies, and for taking the time to share those with us. And of course, to all of you who have joined us live, or if you're watching on the replay, thanks for joining us. Please do keep doing the incredible work you're doing. I think you're really leaders in this space of thinking purposefully, of doing the work you do with integrity, with passion, and of course with purpose too. My name is Lauren Arms. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us, and I would look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.